Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Asher Marketing Podcast. Today, my guest is an old friend, even though he's not that old. He's an old friend, John Feltz from the city of Fort Wayne. John, how are you doing?
Anthony, I'm doing well. I was driving over here, and I was cold the entire time. I mean, my office is only 4 blocks away, but I'm looking forward to warmer days.
Yeah, me too. The problem, John, is you are too skinny.
Okay.
We need to give you a sandwich or something so you'll gain some weight and get some insulation. So,
Right.
Well, yeah, we're recording this. It's about 10 days before Christmas, so it is cold outside, and you are the dad of a soon-to-be 2-year-old.
Correct.
So things are probably pretty exciting in your household this time of year.
Yes, as we were talking about before coming on, his name is Jack. He's almost 2, and he's starting to learn a little more about Santa Claus, and he's growing up too fast. But my wife, Allie, and I were enjoying every minute of it, and he's starting to say a few more words and watch different TV shows, and he's starting to like Indiana basketball, which makes Dad very, very proud.
Well, that's
and,
probably a requirement if he wants to remain your son, yeah.
You know, Allie always tells me, she says, he doesn't have to like Indiana basketball. I'm like, well, he doesn't have to, but it'd be fun if we both watched it together. But yeah, he's starting to like different things, so very exciting times.
Yeah, well, great. And your dad just retired after a long stint as a judge, is that correct?
That's correct. He was with the Allen County Circuit Courts for 18 years, and we just had a nice, small social distance celebration last Thursday night at the courthouse. And he received a mayoral proclamation from Mayor Tom Henry and the Sagamore of Wabash from our governor, Eric Holcomb. And so now we don't know exactly what he's going to do, except he'll probably continue to run. As you know, he's a marathon runner, and he wants to spend more time with the grandchildren, and that'll be his number one priority.
Yeah, well, that's great. Well, that's good for you and Allie, because maybe you can get a break every now and then and let the grandparents take the kids. Well, John, thanks for being on today. I've known you for a while. You are definitely a Renaissance man. John is not just a social media marketer, not just a good communicator. He's also a drummer in a band. He also is a huge IU basketball fan. He has a hot dog named after him at the stand. If you've ever been there, the JPF dog is John's namesake. So John has a lot of different things going on. And one of the things I'd like people to hear about, John, is how you got to where you are today. We talk in this show about career path, and yours has been an interesting one because I think I met you when you were at Visit Fort Wayne a number of years ago. But talk to me a little bit about how you ended up in that position, what you've done since. I'll disclaim for those who are listening, John is one of the few people I've tried to hire multiple times and has rebuked my advances. So I've followed his career path pretty well. But for people who don't know you all that well, John, walk us through what you've done career-wise and how you've gotten to where you are today.
Sure. So I'm born and raised Fort Wayne, Indiana. I went to Bishop Luers High School. I'm a proud Knight. Then I went to Indiana University in Bloomington. Growing up, I loved sports. That was my number one thing. More specifically, basketball. Love the game of basketball. I didn't play it because I was a little too small. And then I hit my growth spurt in college, so it was kind of a waste even playing high school. But I grew up wanting to be a sports writer, and I tell everybody I wanted to go to IU, get my journalism degree, come back to Fort Wayne, and write for the Journal-Gazette. That was kind of my plan. After college, so I graduated with a sports journalism degree. After college, I graduated in 2008, and as most know, that was probably one of the worst times in our economic world. We had a recession.
Yeah, your timing there was pretty bad.
Yeah, it was awful, actually.
Yeah.
And there's maybe some internships here and there. So I started a sports blog, just keep the writing going. But I got very, very lucky. At the time, IPFW, they were hiring a media relations intern for their athletic department. So I thought it was a perfect fit for me. Being that it's sports and athletics, but also give me a chance to write. This is before social media took off, so I was basically writing news releases, keeping stats at games, setting up photo shoots, working with the local media.
So are you working under the direction of the athletic director in that position? So
Yes.
who was AD at that time?
It was Tommy Bell at the time.
All right.
Now it's Kelly.
Kelly Hartley Hutton. Yep.
Yep. And so I worked there for 2 years as an intern, and my internship was over. So it was still around 2010. The economy still wasn't bounced back. So I wanted to do something totally different. I was single. I loved Fort Wayne, but I kind of wanted to live somewhere else other than Fort Wayne. So I went to Chicago for a year. I worked in the athletic department at Loyola University, and unbelievable experience. I not only grew as a professional working with Chicago Tribune and several big-time media outlets, but I grew as a person, living on your own in northern Chicago. Really enjoyed the experience. But all my friends and family were back here in Fort Wayne, and that was around the time Parkview Field was already in existence, but you sort of noticed the change happening in Fort Wayne around 2011, 2012. And I missed my mom. That was another big thing. So I was like, I want to come home. So again, I was lucky again. IPFW athletic department, they were hiring a media relations assistant. So it was almost a step up from my internship. Doing almost the exact same thing, except I was working, it was probably 50 hours a week at the time. More responsibility, writing, working with the papers. And again, during that time, Fort Wayne, J.K. O'Donnell's was continuing to do well. More restaurants were opening. And I was just kind of looking around one day, and I saw a job posting at Visit Fort Wayne, and it was for a marketing specialist.
Yep.
Now, marketing was not my forte. So
at that point, you consider yourself to be a journalist.
Yeah, I was more communications ordeal.
Yeah.
And so I read the job description ahead. We're looking to launch our social media, and we're looking to, enhance our communications department. So I applied and had a great interview. I love their mission. Visit Fort Wayne is probably one of the most, I want to say, underappreciated, because a lot of people like them and know who they are, but they do so much for our community. It's once you dive into it and see all they do, it's really unbelievable. But
so for those who are unfamiliar, Visit Fort Wayne is the Convention and Visitors Bureau. It is an entity that promotes attractions in Fort Wayne, restaurants, hotels, all those things, tries to send some money our way from people who might be thinking about where to spend some discretionary time and take a day trip or a longer vacation. Is all that correct?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Visitor spending is a big part of our local economy.
And Dan O'Connell has run that show forever. Dan
Yes.
I would be remiss if I didn't give Dan a shout out, because he's a great guy. He's done a great job there. Yeah.
Dan's a great guy. He basically, my direct boss was Kristen Guthrie, who's a genius in her own right. But Dan and Kristen almost gave me the keys to start their social media, and I was still learning all about social media. We can get into that in a little bit. So I worked at Visit Fort Wayne for, I believe it was 5 years, and I was approached then around 2017 by John Perlich, who's my current boss. He is the public information director for Fort Wayne Mayor Tom Henry, and he said, "Hey, John, we're interested in enhancing our social media efforts. Would you be interested in working for the city?" And it was a tough decision to leave Visit Fort Wayne because of the experiences and the people I met, but it was more of a different focus. Rather than focusing on visitors, I was focusing more on residents and hometown. So it was a tough decision, but I love my job right now.
Well, and your family has obviously a legacy for public service, with your dad having been a judge for a number of years. Was that initially attractive to you? Was it scary? Was it something that was you didn't know much about? How did you feel about going into a job? I don't want to say in politics, but in the public eye. What did that feel like?
That was actually brought up during my interview with the city. It was, this job, it's very intense. It changes. Not one day is different to the next hours. The hours are all different, but you are more in the public light, and that's true. I wear my City of Fort Wayne jacket around, and I'm being honest, I get a few more different looks, whether I'm at the grocery store. I've had people come up to me asking, "Hey, a year ago, I remember got asked all the time about, is the garbage collection going to improve?" This random stuff.
Because of course
that.
you control everything.
Yeah,
that happens.
I can press a button and that gets better.
Yeah.
But no, I mean jumping from from the Visitors Bureau to the city definitely brought new challenges, but I just learned over the years that it's a challenge I was happy to take on, and you quickly grow a thicker skin over time.
Yeah.
But no, I've loved every single day. I'm very blessed to be with the city.
Yeah, well, and one of the things we typically talk about on the podcast, John, is the entities for which our guests work. And a lot of times that's a little bit of a mystery. There's a lot of explaining that needs to be done. I don't know that I could say that's true when you say the city of Fort Wayne. People know what that is, but tell me a little bit about your work and what you do in the larger scheme of things with the city. What's your role? How do you interface with the mayor? I know there's probably not many typical days, but what is a typical day supposed to look like for you?
Yeah, so my main job is my title is a head of digital engagement with the city of Fort Wayne, which is actually a job title that we borrowed from the Queen of England.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes, it was. Right. So the job posting was a public outreach coordinator, which it sounds pretty generic, I guess, at the time. But my true role is informing the public digitally, whether it's newsletters, social media, really any form of direct, digital communication.
So how did you come to borrow the Queen's English for your job title?
I actually saw a job. I wasn't looking. I saw a job posting, and it said Queen of England, head of digital engagement, and it listed the job description. I'm like, I do all those things. So I asked John Perlich hey, can I update my job title? He's like, go for it. So that's a kind of a quick little story on my job title.
All right. Well, hopefully the Queen's okay with that.
Yeah, I didn't ask for permission. I probably should have asked if we could borrow that job title, but.
Yes, if not, send your lawsuit to the city attorney.
Exactly. I'm sure they'd love that.
Oh, absolutely.
So my main job is I help the city of Fort Wayne with their social media presence, and right now I currently run 8 social media accounts. My main 2 are the city of Fort Wayne and Mayor Tom Henry.
Okay.
So whether it's a news release that goes out, my job is John Perlich will send the news release to the media. I'll take the news release, put it on our website. I'll gather a photo that myself has snapped or we have in our files, put in our social media pages, and that's for the city's channels. But the mayor's a whole different ballgame with following him around all day.
Sure. So you're a lot of times at the mayor's right hand, sort of listening to what he's presenting to his constituents and then summarizing that and packaging that for use on social media, correct?
Absolutely.
So one of the things you and I have talked about in the past is the challenges that come with, really conveying a different voice than your own and not trying to be the mayor, but trying to make sure you're consistently representing him. Talk a little bit about that. How do you do that? What are the challenges in doing that? What are some of the successes you've had and maybe some things that didn't work out so well?
Sure. So it is definitely challenging. The mayor and we use different vocabulary. He's definitely more wiser than me, and he probably knows a little more fancier words than I do. But
he has a few years on
he's been around the block a few times. Yeah. But so, for example, if we have a news conference at 9, maybe a ribbon cutting at 1. I have it all on my calendar, so I'm planned out for the day. So there's a lot of preparation involved, knowing where we're going, why we're going, what are the talking points we have written out for Mayor Henry. That's usually conducted by John Perlich, and we're all, we're on an email chain.
Yep.
So it's mostly when we go to the event, I'm keying in on what Mayor Henry is saying, pulling out some important messages that he's getting across, and I'm basically taking what he's saying, at the news conference and delivering it on social media. So. Yep. I mean, it is directly everything he has said. It is probably more concise and to the point because, we don't want to put 50 paragraphs on a social media post, but we can definitely pull out some important points, put a nice photo with it on his Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and that's how it's delivered.
So are you also responsible for engagement and moderation? In other words, when people comment, asking questions, is it you who's responding to that? Do you have a team working on that? How does all that work?
So I serve also as a a 311 representative for the city, and
Mm-hmm.
we get questions. I probably have a few questions in my inbox on my phone right now, probably 1 or 2 an hour. Most of them I can't answer because, again, as we talked about earlier, I don't have the magic button. So we direct most of our people to 311, and they are phenomenal over there. But if it's simple as, hey, where can I sign up to ask for a new stop sign, or the simple questions, we have that information on our website. So I can take a link from our website, deliver it on a message, and move along.
So let me ask you this. So your job is potentially, if you let it be, it's a 24/7 job. Because
Yes.
people are going to ask questions 10 o'clock at night, 10 o'clock in the morning. They're going to ask questions when you have other responsibilities you're trying to tend to. You have a nearly 2-year-old child. You have a wife. You play the drums occasionally. You do other things. How do you manage that? How do you balance the need to be responsive with the need to also have a life and get some rest?
It is, I've been doing this, Visit Fort Wayne 2012, about 8 years, and truthfully, I'm still trying to figure it out. And it is very difficult. Especially this year has probably been the most difficult time for me personally and professionally, because COVID-19, the civil unrest and protest, there was a lot of emotion happening online, and a lot of it was directed to the city and Mayor Henry. Questions, concerns, who can I talk to? So I would go to bed at night and wake up to 10, 15 messages waiting there on Facebook. Again, a lot of them I can't answer because I'm not going to speak on behalf of the police department.
Sure.
So a lot of times I'm not deflecting, but hey, here's if you want this information, here's who you can contact. But you do have to have some sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? You have to be disciplined in knowing, I'm at home, I'm with Allie, I'm with Jack, and you got to take your phone, and it's hard. You want to help someone who probably needs something quickly, but you know that your family time is number one. So sometimes I'll leave my phone in a different room on purpose. Yeah. And after a few minutes, you kind of forget about it a little bit, but there is that little anxiety there.
Sure. Yeah, well, and one of the things that, I may change the way I phrase this, because I've told people who are interested in a career in being a social media manager, who are representing a brand, one of the things I say is, if you want to do this because you think it's fun, I used to say, think again, but I might say, if you want to do this because you think it's fun, talk to John Fouts, because it is real work. And, there is aspects of it that are very fulfilling, just like any other job, but there are aspects of it when it's harder to turn it off. I know Amber Owens, who is the social media manager for Indiana Tech, she's talked very candidly about the difficulty in striking that balance. She does a good job of it, but I think anyone who works in that world, you're always kind of waiting for the other shoe to drop, even if there is no clear and present danger of that happening.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Several examples. One, I can't tell you how many people have told me, I'm going to run this brand's social media. I'm like, okay, that sounds amazing. And they're like, okay, yeah, I'm going to do a great job. I'm like, yeah, you'll do great. And then after the first month, they're like, I'm running out of ideas.
Yeah.
I don't know how to. It is a lot harder than people give credit for. And as you mentioned, the mental health aspect of it.
Oh, sure.
It's a real thing. I know every job has its challenges, but hearing comments all day, every day, and when you work for local government, they're most of the time. Usually the people that are positive towards the city government, they're not going to tweet at you, thank you.
Hey, thanks that the garage pickup was on time this week.
My trash.
You probably I said garage. Garbage pickup was on time this week. You're not going to hear that.
No,
you're only going to hear the
that.
complaints. And when people think about social media as a career, a lot of their reference point is their interaction with their family and friends, and it's very rare your family and friends are going to yell at you for the garbage not being picked up.
Exactly. Exactly right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I do some side work with a few local restaurants here in town, and that is much more, I guess, enjoyable, because they're really, other than this my food my order may have been messed up. That's really the most the worst thing they can say to you.
Sure.
But someone, again, hate to beat up on garbage collection, even though it's got a lot better.
Yeah.
I'm going to take my trash can and dump it on Citizen Square. When you hear that about 5 or 10 times, it starts to kind of eat at you a little bit.
Sure.
But,
sure.
And, some really negative things I probably shouldn't share on here.
Yeah.
I've actually spoken to several social media people about how they're handling it, and a lot of them gave me some really good advice. And the best one was, you're just delivering the message.
Yeah.
You can't take personal responsibility for it. And
sure.
I think, and a lot of times this summer, I represent the city on social media, so I took it personally that I'm disappointing these people, and how can I help? And it kind of brought me down a little bit, but hearing all this really has brought me back up lately.
Yeah, it's very, 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 very rare that it's about you personally, but it's very possible that you feel it is, and it's hard to separate that sometimes.
Yes.
So let's talk a little bit, if you don't mind, about Mayor Henry. I've had the opportunity to meet him a few times. I always say to my friends back home in Massachusetts, one of my favorite things about living in Fort Wayne is there have actually been multiple occasions when the mayor opens the door for me. It's not because of anything special. It's just because, he's that type of guy, and it's, Fort Wayne is that type of community. My interactions with him have all been, at events when he's obviously on. You get to see Mayor Henry, a lot more than most of us do. What's that experience like? What's it like working with the mayor?
It's amazing. One of my fondest memories of the mayor, other than, all the great ribbon cuttings, it was my second day on the job, and we just left, I believe it was a groundbreaking, and we had about 15 minutes to kill, and he just said, "Hey, do you want me to drive you around downtown and show you what's coming?" And I'm like, I'm still new. I'm like, "Yeah, that'd be awesome." So he, drove down Main Street and said, "Yeah, there's gonna be this beautiful boutique hotel here." And he's like, in 2 months, John, we're gonna push dirt, as they say, on Riverfront Stage Phase 1, which we call Promenade Park. Like, I was shocked by all this cool stuff.
Did you have skepticism where you were like, yeah, that sounds great, but
No, I mean, truthfully, for him, the proof's in the pudding.
For sure.
I'm trying to think off the top of my head if any project that really has just fallen through the cracks, and I really can't.
Well, I mean, that's the reason I asked the question is that I tend to be a skeptic by nature, but everything that I've seen that was promised has come to fruition in terms of those projects, and has really exceeded my expectations.
Exactly.
It's not that I had low expectations, but Promenade Park is beautiful, and I think stands up well against public spaces just about anywhere. So I think it's a good reminder that there's a plan, and there's folks who really have a vision that for the average person like me, it might be hard to see that, but it generally comes through.
Absolutely. And Mayor Henry, he is the prototypical servant leader, and I really didn't know what that term meant until he gave a few speeches, and I did some research about it. And it's a leader who serves not only his community but his coworkers, his family, and he is the anti-micromanager. And he is on the phone with his department heads every day. He stays afloat, and he'll ask tough questions, but he's never looking over shoulders. And I've heard some stories of past mayors who they've been unbelievable, but they've been micromanagers, and they'll sign off on every single paving project. Yeah. And that, you can sit down and do that, but I think that it's very time consuming, and the mayor wants to do these other bigger projects, so he lets his department heads do that. So he's been amazing in letting his people. He trusts them. He gives them confidence. He lifts everyone up. There's never a time where he, bashes anybody in public or in front of people. He may, bring you aside and ask you some tough questions, but very supportive guy. And there's a reason why he's won 4 terms, not only because he's done a great job as a mayor, but he's just a great person.
Yeah, well, one of the things I think about that ability, and I'll call it ability to trust your team, is that when you're in a leadership position, you got to keep some margin, some space for the stuff that is coming. You just don't know what it is yet. And if you're a good delegator and you have people you can trust, and you actually trust them, then you open up that opportunity to deal with things that are unexpected but inevitably coming. And I think that's really a confidence that I think someone of the mayor's stature who's been around for as long as he has, it probably took years to build that, but certainly it's good to hear that he has that.
Absolutely. Yeah, and he has the best of the best in town. I share an office with Stephanie Crandall, and she's currently working on a project about COVID-19 awareness here in town, and she's brilliant. I keep telling her when mayor's done, she should run for mayor, or there's this at Citizen Square. I don't think people understand how many talented, passionate people. I don't know if people watch Parks and Rec too much. See how goofy. Parks and Rec is my favorite shows, but no, there are some brilliant people who generally care. I can't think of anyone on top of my head who doesn't care. They come to work. They're our neighbors. They want their city to improve, and they come to work and work hard every day.
So, which Parks and Rec character would you say you are? Are you Ben?
I'm Ben.
Okay,
I'm Ben.
Yeah,
I think I'd be
that.
Ben. Allie and I, we've watched Parks and Rec I think 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
And she's like, "You are Ben." And I'm like, well, I like Ben.
All right. Well, I won't ask you to identify who in Citizen Square is Ron Swanson.
Okay.
We'll just keep it at that.
I don't know if we have a Ron Swanson, to be honest with you.
Now be thinking about that, and you can message me privately, and we can compare notes. So, John, another thing I'd like to hear about is, you've done a great job of detailing the work you do and some of the challenges and some of the fulfilling things about it. But let's talk about some projects. This is a time of year where a lot of people are obviously thinking ahead to 2021, and after 2020, a lot of us are eager to do that. But what are the big things you're working on right now? Things that are exciting to you, maybe keeping you up at night, maybe a little bit of both. What's on your plate that you can talk about and sort of grapple with here on the podcast?
Yes, so it's more of a continuation for one of our projects is the Maritime Henry podcast, and we started that about a year ago. At the time, he was one of 5 mayors in the country to have his own podcast.
Oh, wow.
And it started off him sitting in front of the mic, just talking about a project we're working on, or so he was basically by himself, and then he liked doing it the first 2 or 3, but then he wanted to have guests on, and so now we've had the police chief, fire chief, community leaders, Chuck Surak, Joe Jordan. We've had phenomenal guests, so we'll definitely continue to improve the podcast because over time we have an opening Q&A. So I'm sure we'll tweak it going into next year. Yeah,
as anyone who is listening to this podcast can attest, there's always room for improvement. So it's an experiment as you go. So what's the format of the podcast? Is there anything you try to do every episode, or is it pretty free form?
It's pretty free form. Usually we'll have a general set of questions, but usually it's very timely. So if it's in April, we'll have our public works director on, talk about upcoming road projects, or we've had Mike Nutter on at the Tin Caps, usually in May, talk about the upcoming season. So they are strategically planned in terms of the time of year, but it's a very low-key conversation, and we've heard from countless people that I didn't know the mayor had that sense of humor, or I didn't. Yeah. It just humanizes him a little more, and that's what we kind of try to do with the social media when he eats at Coney Island. So having that is just another way to get people to get to know him a little more.
So what's the frequency? Is it every couple times a month?
It's twice a week. We've not had one in a few weeks due to COVID-19.
Sure.
But it's usually bi-weekly.
Okay. All right. Well, great. Well, that sounds awesome. I'll admit I haven't had a chance to listen yet, but I'll have to do that.
Yeah, he's on episode, I think we just hit the 50 mark, and we tried to get Cindy, his wife, Cindy Henry, on for the 50th episode. But she just didn't want to come on. So we told her we're saving her for number 100.
Okay, all right.
She'll be on.
Well, I'll definitely listen to that one. So what else is on your plate? Podcast, obviously the day-to-day social media stuff. What else are some of the big projects you're working on?
Yes, so we're also working on, it's called Moving Forward with Mayor Tom Henry, and it's a bi-weekly video that we have on his Facebook page, just for Facebook. We're starting to do more and more video with him. Mostly it started because we weren't able to have public gatherings and public events, so which was probably the best way for people to see him. So we have about 9 or 10 good news items. So if you watch it, it kind of looks like he's reading a news bit. He sits there, hi, I'm Mayor Tom Henry. Here's some great news to share with you in Fort Wayne. We talk about trails all the time because that's been a really exciting development for us. So each video is about 3 minutes long because we don't want to make them too long, but long enough that where it's interesting. But that's been a very exciting project. And then I'm still getting final approval, but we're going to do, I believe, a major overhaul to our website. And that's a little outside my communications realm, but I wanted to take it on because I know how nowadays our website is not as mobile friendly as it really should be. And people are using it more and more. Our web traffic is showing us that. So over the next, I bet you, 5 or 6 months, at least once a day, I'll be working on our website and make it more friendly with social media. They can work together, more video interaction. So that'll be another big project I'll work on next year.
Yeah, well, and the website is potentially a great investment for you because if information is easier for people to find, maybe it's fewer questions on social media.
Correct.
So people can do that self-service that they want. It's going to free up your time for other things.
Absolutely. And if you really want to dive into to our website or any city's website, I mean, they're just for public record.
Sure.
I mean, you could find a public works water billing information from 2007 buried in there.
That sounds pretty exciting. Everyone's going to stop right now. They're going to leave the podcast and they're going to go try to find.
Yes.
Yeah. No, I get it. I mean, it's just endless the amount of info that's out there. Yeah.
And when I was at Visit Fort Wayne, they redid their website and there was a lot of information on there, probably not nearly as much as the city, and it's very time consuming because you get to test almost every single page, make sure it's working all together. This gentleman his name's Tom Boyer. He's phenomenal. Yep. Man, he's so good at website marketing. So I'm sure we'll be picking his brain at some point.
Yeah.
Today is his birthday, by the way. So
all right. Well, happy birthday, Tom.
Yes.
Happy birthday, Tom. Your gift from John Feltz is going to be the chance to help audit his website. So
sure, he'll love that.
Yeah. Well, we're going to move on to the speed round of the show. This is kind of a quick hit version of what we've talked about.
Cool.
And I'm going to ask you about a quick question about career path, a quick question about the work you do at the city, and then a little bit of a wild card sort of advice for your peers. And the first question about career path is very simply, John, you've had, the opportunity to do a few different things in your career. You're established in the work you do, but still young enough that I'm sure there's people who are college age or fresh out of college who are looking for advice, maybe even some people who are older who are looking, for the next step in their career, who ask you this. I know, everyone gets asked this from time to time. What's your best piece of advice in terms of building a career path, having a successful career, work-life balance, all those things? What does it come down to for you?
Absolutely. This may sound generic, but always look to challenge yourself. And I think when you're fresh out of college, you come out with a ton of energy, and then you hit that first job challenge, and you probably freak out. And I think I've had it. I know many people have had it. But you really just have to keep battling. You have to look for new opportunities and keep challenging yourself. I mean, I wouldn't be in social media or communications if I didn't, either apply for a job or ask someone a tough question that I know that may be uncomfortable to ask, but I know that in the long run, learning this information would help me in the long run. So again, it's really continue to challenge yourself, set the bar extremely high. I mean, you may never reach it, but you'll always be working towards it, and it helps you from getting stale in your work or not wanting to learn. Like Allie makes fun of me, but I'm reading articles. Yeah, I'm reading some Indiana basketball articles throughout the day, but I'm reading social media, how to engage better, how to make your photos look better. I'm always trying to improve, even just a little bit. And I think at the end of the day, when it adds up, you have a better product for yourself, and then at the end of the day, for the people who you're trying to communicate. So always continue to challenge yourself.
Yeah, I think that's great. I mean, today, the biggest risk is being comfortable. If you think you know everything, then you're in trouble. So,
right. Exactly.
And the older I get, the more I learn I don't know. So that's something I need to continue to do. Yeah. All right, second question. I'm going to spin this one a little bit differently because normally, I guess I'll ask the question. When people stop you and they say, okay, you work for the city of Fort Wayne, you do social media, you're in public information, how do you summarize that in a phrase? Like, what's the essence of what you do, and maybe why do you think it matters?
So my elevator speech is I'm a public information officer online. So my job is I'm distributing city information on social media. And I think most people can kind of get, so, you run the city's social media page, or you are helping distribute information, newsletters or social media. So my short phrase is I'm a communicator online.
Okay. All right. Very well said. Very succinct. So obviously you're a good communicator if you can sum it up in
I don't know if I communicated that very well.
No, that's fine. All right. And one more question, and you alluded to this. It's been a tough year for everyone, but, in your job, you've dealt with some, unrest and protests and COVID-19 and all the things that, all the challenges that everyone's aware of from the past year. So it's a time when people are looking for a little bit of inspiration. They're looking for a little bit of hope. They're looking for advice. If somebody, who's listening to this is going through a difficult time, whether career-wise or otherwise, what's your best piece of advice about how to get through that and come out of it a little stronger?
Sure. So I have on my wall, it's a gift from my friend Stephen J. Bailey, who you know well. He's a marketer, social media director here in town, and it just says 4 words: work hard and be kind to people. Mm-hmm. Is that 4 words?
That was 5. But 5. That's okay. It keeps growing.
I was never good at. That's why I ain't going to math. But no, I remember reading that about 2 years ago, and it's so simple. But if you really just follow the mission behind it, the purpose behind it, work hard. That can be in your job. It can be friendships. It can be relationships. It can be in a hobby. And just be kind to people. And a former coworker of yours, Ashley, she because there's 2 different phrases. There's be kind and be nice. And she said, and I remember following and saying, I like be nice. And she says, no, be kind is more impactful. Be nice is you're just seeing someone at the grocery store. And
this is Ashley Motia, correct?
Yeah, Ashley Motia. Sorry, Ashley, yep. She's amazing as well.
Yes, she is.
And she's like, be nice. Anyone can be nice, but when you're kind to someone, that is what you said about Mary Henry, is opening the door, asking someone how their day is, and giving back to community. That's kindness. Yeah. And I think if you can try your best, work hard, everything you can do, but also be generous and ask someone how their day is going. I try to live those words every day. And I'm human. I'm going to mess up every so often, but I do try at least 2 or 3 times a day to ask someone, how are you doing? Yeah. Because we're all going through struggles right now, and a lot of people, they don't have an outlet they can go to, and my job's been really, really tough. And people tell me, thank you for asking. Now, no one's really asked me how I'm doing, but I think we all should be still looking out for one another. Yeah,
well, great point. And I don't want to try to speak for Ashley Motia. I never could. But the difference I see is that being nice is sort of reactive. That's how you respond to other people, whereas being kind is active. It's actually taking the initiative to make the world a little bit of a better place with your interactions. And I've always said that the reason I think I'm a little bit less of a jerk every day. That doesn't mean I'm not a jerk, but a little bit less of one. And some of it because I've realized when you're having a bad day, the best way to make it better is to make other people's day better.
Absolutely.
And that, I think, is something that seems so simple that people don't follow that advice. But the more that advice I follow, the more true it turns out to be.
I mean, as you know, when you're a little kid and you're looking forward to Christmas, you want to get all the gifts, but then every year as you get older, it's like, I really don't need anything, but I'd rather give something. And as you get older, I'm sure you don't want anything when you're, 60 or 70 years old. But you just want to give someone the best gift. So I think you hit the nail on the head. And giving back to, again, a friend or your city or your neighborhood or your church or your high school, everybody could use a little help right now. And if you can do your part, and if we all do it collectively, it can make a big impact.
Yeah, that's great advice. And as someone with a nearly 2-year-old child and active grandparents, you don't want to get any more gifts because you're not going to have room for them. Yeah.
Allie talked about that. She's like, I asked her, so what are we going to get Jack for Christmas? She's like, oh, we'll get him some little gifts, but both sets of grandparents are just going to spoil him. And like, yeah, you're right.
Jack of the future, if you listen to this in like 5 years, I'm going to apologize, but my advice to your parents is don't get him anything major because he's not going to remember, and he'll get so much stuff that he's going to forget what came from whom. So you're in the clear for at least this year.
Except for this year, when he's 3, almost 3 next year. I'm sure he'll add to his Christmas list.
For sure. Well, John, I really appreciate you being with us. One of the things I always say when I talk about John Feltz is that he is an all-around nice guy. So his advice is advice that he is taking. So we would encourage everyone to take the advice that John Feltz seems to live every day.
Thank you, Anthony.
Well, thanks again, and thanks to everyone for listening. We'll be back next week with another guest, and we hope to see you then.